know, we've been wondering what these divisions would look like for a long time, right? We've heard the commissioner talk about the virtual certainty that there will probably be a Canadian division. So what does that mean for the rest of the NHL teams? Well, according to Pierre LeBrun, this is where we're at right now. Now, this is important to point out. This is not a finalized list yet, and it is still subject to change. But the four-division realignment currently looks like this. I would just say the top one is mostly metropolitan teams, with the addition of Boston and Buffalo, and instead Carolina and Columbus go to that second division. And then the third division with the California teams actually now includes Dallas, Colorado, and the St. Louis Blues. So that looks stacked. And we know the All-Canadian division, again, is a virtual certainty. So when you digest this, Dano, what do you make of it? Which is the toughest division?
Well, it's certainly competitively balanced, I would believe, and you have to come up with some system, right? So I look at this and I look at Division One with the Bruins, Sabres, Devils. Yeah, some of those teams, the Islanders, Rangers, some of those teams will be happy to see a real good Columbus Blue Jacket team and Carolina Hurricane out of their division if this transpires. But I would say that's probably the toughest division, top to bottom. And this is just subjective, just my opinion. Looking at it firsthand and quickly, I would go Division One. I would go Division Three out west with the Avalanche, Stars, Golden Knights, Sharks, Blues. That looks like a tough division. I kind of put them, slot them number two. The Canadian division, which is very competitively balanced, top to bottom, outside of Ottawa, which I think is going to be a better team than a lot of people think. I think it's pretty even, pretty close. So that would be exciting and very challenging for all those teams. And then if I'm looking at the weaker of the four divisions, and weak is a relative term because there's a lot of good teams in that division, and the defending Stanley Cup champions are in that division, Tampa Bay Lightning. But I would say they might have their way with Division Two if, in fact, this is how it aligns. Yeah. But that's just off the top of my head, looking at it quickly, Jamie. And it looks terrific. You've got to come up with something, and you want it to be competitively balanced. That's the National Hockey League's goal, I would believe. Yeah. And if that's the way the divisions stack up, I think it looks pretty good. And should be exciting for the fans. And boy, are there going to be some rivalries ramped up. Yeah, I will point out that in that Division Two, as we had it listed right there, only one of those 8 teams did not make that 24-team return-to-play format. So there are still plenty of good teams, but that's what makes it exciting, right? And it's only for 1 year. It's going to be a shortened season, so it's something that is going to be just really interesting. But we've pretty much already heard and understand that there's only going to be the Canadian teams playing each other because of border issues, obviously. So we haven't necessarily heard that the other 3 divisions would only play within their own division. Do you think they should only play within their division? That's a real tough one. From the standpoint I talk about rivalries, I think that has dipped a little bit over the years. I mean, it's always Pittsburgh and Philadelphia if we're talking out east, or Islanders, Rangers, whatever those rivalries may be. Well, all of a sudden you can get more rivalries because you're going to play each other more often if, in fact, you stay within your division. And obviously, safety is first and foremost. And if that's part of it and you stay inside the division, well, so be it. I think from a player's perspective, yeah, you'd like to play some of the other teams if it's throughout the United States, whether it be the Hurricanes and Jackets, and go over to Division Two. But I think safety will be first and foremost on their decision-making here. But I will tell you, the fans will be awfully excited if it's just divisions, because you have to be ready and prepared every night. And I think we're going to find new rivalries along the way that when we move forward and we get some normalcy in the following season or seasons, that you're going to create even more intense rivalries. And I think rivalries are what it's all about. That's what makes this game great. And I think you could ramp that up if, in fact, you stuck to division. It's going to be tough competition for players because you're facing, let's say, in the Division One, you're facing Boston more often than you're used to. You're facing the Islanders more often than you're accustomed to, or the Washington Capitals. Makes it tough. St. Louis out west is going to play Vegas more often. It's going to be great for us here at the studio, great for the fans. But you better be ready in a shortened season, because you can find a real good team's going to find themselves on the outside looking in if they don't get off to a good start. Now, from your perspective, you're Mr. Devil, right? And back when you first started playing, we went and looked it up. You played the Rangers a lot. I think 7 or 8 times. That's about the number that we're expecting the Devils and Rangers to play each other again. Can you imagine that? I mean, do you like that, or is that too many times to play a rival? As a player, it's intense. For the fans, you love it. the players, it's more work. It's heavier lifting, if I may, as far as it's going to be tougher competition.
Yeah.
But as a player, don't you kind of want that along the way?
Yeah.
We did that way back in my era where we did play 7-8 times against division rivals. They tried that, and some thought it was a little division heavy and made it that much more difficult and taxing on players. But we'd love to see it, wouldn't we?
Right.
And again, that intensifies the rivalries. Fans would love it. And you certainly have to be prepared every night because in a shortened schedule, and I played in that shortened schedule and fortunate, ended up winning the Stanley Cup. Grateful that we did going into the playoffs. We didn't have a great season. Found ourselves, fifth seed, got into the playoffs, but we were one of those teams that was able to turn it up come playoff time. But you don't want to be one of those teams that's a real good team, expect to make the playoffs, and all of a sudden you get off to a slow start in these unprecedented times or different circumstances in a shortened season, and playing on a nightly basis these teams that are your rivals, which intensifies every game, every series, where however this plays out. It makes it tough, so you better get off to a good start as well, just to get into the playoffs.
Exactly.
But I think it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's real exciting just to see what may become the divisions before we finalize playing again in January. We all hope. We're keeping our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Nothing in stone from any perspective or any standpoint, but we're excited. It was snowing out today, Jamie, so that kind of gave me a hockey feel, and it got me excited.
Yes, let me ask you this. In today's game, going back to what you said with certain teams getting off to a hot start, the Buffalo Sabres come to mind. Their past 2 years, they've gotten off to a great start in the first 6 weeks of the season. Which team do you think could maybe be a surprise playoff team this year because they're benefiting from that shorter schedule?
I would think teams that, under normal circumstances, we would do our evaluating and who's going to make the playoffs, who's not going to, and make our bold predictions, which a lot of times they never turn out. Teams that we would predict are not going to make the playoffs under regular circumstances in a full 82-game schedule are the teams that might have a little advantage that say, hey, we get off to a good start. We start feeling good about our team. No, we might not be as skilled as some of the other teams, but we don't have to sustain it for as long.
Right.
So if Buffalo Sabres, for say, get off to that hot start again, well, now it's a shortened season.
6 weeks means a lot
They don't
more.
have time to fall off a cliff, or the New Jersey Devils, or teams out west like the LA Kings, Anaheim Ducks, who, if we were going into a regular season, we'd probably say those teams won't make the playoffs. But now, in a shortened year, you go, and Buffalo's a much improved team, don't get me wrong. I thought they would have a chance in an 82-game schedule. I think they're a better team this year. But you mentioned it, they started off great last year. But because of depth, and we always see it usually flattens out and the top teams start to take over second half of the season. And we saw that with some teams that had real good starts. Even the Edmonton Oilers, who had a terrific start. I know they were a playoff team last year, but they faltered down the stretch because of depth, in my opinion. But I think with a shortened year, some fans could be excited about their team if they say first 20 games they go, 15-6-2 or whatever, first 20, 22 games, 15-6-2. All of a sudden say, just hang in there. Just don't fall off a cliff because we've got a better opportunity to make the playoffs. So the teams that weren't supposed to make it or what we predict wouldn't make it under normal circumstances, I think have a little bit of an advantage.
Very
And that's a good thing.
It is, yes. We love to see it. All right.